Susan Mayer was Desperate Housewives' anchor character, the every woman whose show creator Mark Cherry designed to be lovable and relatable. Although on paper Susan was inoffensive, there was something about her that audiences loved to hate.
It's like a meeting of the I Hate Susan Club.
Over the course of 8 seasons, the Housewives met with murder, fraud, bribery, and so much more. So, what exactly was it about Susan, a seemingly innocent girl-next-door type, that made her the show's unintentional villain for so many?
I hate Susan Mayer. Every time I see those big doe eyes of hers, I swear to God, I just want to go out and shoot a deer.
The world of television is packed with central characters who become unintentionally hated. Ross Geller, Piper Chapman, and Carrie Bradshaw all fell victim to the ire of audiences despite not being initially written as villains. Like Susan, they're all part of ensemble casts, and also like Susan, in the case of Carrie and Piper, they're often the character we're expected to identify with, the allegedly most quote-unquote normal person in a group of caricatures. In fact, actress Terry Hatcher has mentioned that she identifies with Susan herself.
One of the ways you said you were like Susan, your character. First of all, you say she's insecure, you're insecure.
They picked me as the most neurotic, which initially hurt my feelings. I think the good side of neurotic, I worry about things.
When there's as much drama in a show as there is in, for example, Orange is the New Black or Desperate Housewives, sometimes the moments that speak to us the most are the ones that are genuinely recognizable. That's why we have characters like Susan, who keep us grounded in the crazier storylines. So while Carlos embezzled millions, Bree built an empire, and Mrs. McCluskey kept her husband's dead body in her freezer, Susan's relatively simple life was something we could relate to more. But that didn't work out well for Susan over time with the audience, because it meant her bad decisions, like lying to her partner or forcing her daughter to act like an adult in their relationship, felt all the more real.
Like, I didn't do it to hurt you. You gotta believe me. I should have told you right away. I know that, but you know now, so can we please talk about it?
With anchor characters, because the show is ostensibly about them, they often read as narcissists.
And I thought maybe for a second that Susan Meyer lady and I could be friends. And then she started talking.
They kind of need to be written that way, to propel the story forwards and flesh out the history. But that doesn't account for how abhorrent they can be. With Susan, everything is about her, so when she discovers her husband Mike is addicted to painkillers, she immediately asks if it's because of her.
Susan, listen.
Is it so horrible living with me? I mean, do I make you so miserable that you can't even face me without numbing the pain?
Susan is the archetypal person who says they definitely hate drama, but just always somehow ends up being right in the middle of it. Always convinced that she's just an innocent doe snared by chaos and refusing to admit that she's often the driver of the drama. Even actor James Denton, who played Susan's 2-time husband Mike on the show, highlighted how much drama Susan brought with her everywhere she went and why his character might want respite from that in subsequent relationships.
I think it makes a lot of sense. If Mike's going to go, whatever reason he goes away from Susan, he's going to be drawn to somebody like Catherine. Less drama, more grounded, more stable. She's sort of the anti-Susan, so people that tell me they don't make any sense together, they make perfect sense together.
She's also immature, and the way she behaves towards the people who she's meant to care about is often tough to watch, particularly Mike and Julie, who only very occasionally clap back. Her toxic relationship with Julie, where Julie is expected to act like a parent to Susan, became a major point of contention with many viewers, resulting in her ranking on lists of TV's worst mothers. In Susan's case, it's not just that she's self-obsessed. As culture reporter Laura Bradley wrote in Vanity Fair, like all the women of Wisteria Lane, Susan had her flaws. She was a busybody, a klutz, and pretty self-involved. But more than any of the others, she viewed herself as an innocent damsel. In a show about strong women, Susan's weaknesses are conspicuous, with her perception of her own innocence and her inability to take accountability for some of her misdemeanors makes her seem a bit pathetic.
You know, I so much want to like you, but you just won't let me.
Edie,
Susan, you know, I try. I try to look past your flaws, your klutziness, that faux vulnerability.
Sometimes being the main character in your own story is awesome. Like when you get to decide to take some time, treat yourself, and chill. But other times, it can be so stressful, especially when it comes to the parts of adulthood that aren't so fun. But thankfully, ZocDoc is here to make one of those things a whole lot easier, because it takes so much of the stress out of booking doctor's appointments. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much more. They make it super easy. You can search by location, availability, and insurance, so you won't feel forced to make any compromises. You can read through reviews from real patients to get a feel for each doctor. And then when you find one you like, you can book them instantly. No need to call and listen to bad hold music while hoping they'll have an availability. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. Using ZocDoc has made finding and booking a doctor so much easier for me. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/thetake to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/thetake. ZocDoc.com/thetake.
Interestingly, and perhaps unsurprisingly, many of the female characters who end up being heavily criticized by audiences are written by men, writing what they think female audiences want to see. Carrie Bradshaw is a great example, as is Susan. In fact, Desperate Housewives has long been dogged by rumors that show creator Mark Cherry had a problem with women. This extended to a lawsuit filed by Nicolette Sheridan, the actress who played Edie Britt, who claimed he assaulted her on set, and numerous other people who were involved in the show's creation made allegations of misogyny in the writer's room. And it is, at least on its face, kind of confusing that Susan, a character who Cherry dreamed up to show the struggles of an average single parent, came to be hated by the audience she was supposedly created for. But then, Desperate Housewives also aired in the 2000s, an era where internalized misogyny in the audience, and even amongst the actresses on the show, was rife.
She's a slut.
She's a whore.
Cherry told interviewers that Susan was based on his own single friends, and that he thought there was something so real about a woman saying, "I don't have much time left." And when this available hunky guy moves onto the street, something in her saying, "Let me at him." But the way she was realized on screen didn't actually end up showing the realities of that situation in a way that felt genuine or recognizable to viewers. It didn't show Susan as a capable parent who was ready for love. Rather, the writers made her seem, well, desperate.
The guy just smiles at me 3 times and I'm picking out wedding china. I'm a mess.
Part of what's frustrating about the character of Susan is how much potential she had to be a poster girl for authentic positivity in the face of some major problems. Yet, instead of an inspirational woman and single mother, we got one who was self-centered and often seemingly incapable of introspection, not to mention constantly failing her daughter.
Okay, I know.
And don't play the parent card with me. I just finished packing your suitcase, doing your laundry, and balancing your checkbook.
The audience was shocked that Susan was more concerned with her budding relationship with Mike than she was with Julie, which in many ways exemplifies the misogyny of the early 2000s, where women had the illusion of sexual empowerment but were still judged for pursuing it. And when Susan did finally get her man, rather than letting their relationship blossom, the writers tore it all up.
You know, it's tough because if you just keep them as a happily married couple, happiness is lovely, but it's kind of the death of drama.
We know that that's not really true. There are plenty of on-screen marriages that manage to stand the test of time without draining the excitement from their shows. But Susan's inability to make it work with rugged, handsome Mike was frustrating for many to watch, particularly when she pushed him to feeling inadequate.
All I have heard about are car seats and strollers and $10,000 preschools.
Mike, we don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah, you say that now. But when Benjamin Hodge is in Harvard and our kid's just a plumber like his dad.
Unintentional female villains don't always appear as the result of male writers who don't understand how to make realistic or sympathetic female characters. Sometimes the problem stems from the audience themselves. Take Breaking Bad's Skylar White, who got a lot of hate from viewers because she didn't approve of her husband's meth-making side hustle. If that sounds ludicrous, well, it kind of is. Audiences seemed able to accept that Walter putting his entire family in danger and ruining lives was totally fine, yet complained that Skylar came across as whiny and was a nagging wife just because she had totally reasonable problems with it and wasn't afraid to voice them. As Anna Gunn, the actress who played Skylar, wrote in the New York Times, male characters don't seem to inspire this kind of public venting and vitriol. Regardless of how some of the audience might have felt about Skylar, she was very much written as a real, normal person with understandable problems and irritations. Susan, on the other hand, was stretched to unbelievability because she was written more as an idea than a person, a jumble of traits that kind of fit together but never quite felt genuine. She was presented as being the most true-to-life character on the show, the audience surrogate, and someone we could run into in real life. And to be fair, many of her wants and needs are pretty normal, if ratcheted up a bit for 2000s level soap drama. But that combination only meant that her most grating traits would be magnified, leading audiences to constantly feel more and more annoyed as they came to realize that this wasn't part of some sort of character growth or learning arc, but just the way she is. Coming to the realization that the audience they were ostensibly writing for does not like or relate to the character they intended to be in every woman can be a bit of a surprise for writers, especially back in the 90s and aughts when writers were generally more removed from fan reactions outside of reviews and viewership numbers. In reaction, some writers chose to soften the rougher edges of their more grating female characters. Sex and the City more or less ignored criticism of Carrie during the show's initial run, but in more recent years, the team has used the reboot and Just Like That to respond to seemingly every criticism leveled at the original show since it aired, to almost comic effect. But in the case of Susan, instead of overcompensating by making her better, it felt like the writers chose to humiliate her and put her through hell, almost as if they were providing catharsis to the audience by punishing her.
It was common knowledge on Wisteria Lane where Susan Meyer went. Bad luck was sure to follow. Her misfortunes ranged from the commonplace to the unusual to the truly bizarre.
So Susan's arc went from slightly pathetic to kind of miserable. She lost her home on Wisteria Lane, turned to cam work to make ends meet.
You did porn on the internet?
No, it was just cleaning in lingerie.
And then, when everything looked like it was finally going to be okay, Mike was killed in a drive-by shooting. The storylines became so depressing that some fans even called it out. But there's still a healthy discourse on message boards reviling Susan, even if the writers did do her dirty. Ultimately, there's something compelling about Susan and the way that she irritates us. We enjoy seeing characters like Edie get the better of her and rejoice when Julie finally drums up the courage to tell her she's been a bad mom.
That is why I don't want to have this baby on my own. Because I already raised a child. You.
But it's likely that if she was written today, she'd be humanized much more. TV writers are becoming much more respectful of the female experience, including the facets of Susan's life that back in the early 2000s trapped her in cliches. We now have shows like Maid, Good Girls, Big Little Lies, and Better Things, which show the realities of single motherhood and its complexities in sometimes painful detail. And we also get to see women like Susan experiencing joy, too, finding partners who stick around and getting a lot of happiness from their families and careers. So maybe Susan wasn't so bad. She was just imagined at the wrong time. That's the take. Click here to watch a video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. And make sure to subscribe to our Patreon for exclusive new videos.